Well, welcome again, everyone. If you have not already done so, please type in the chat box your name and district. And first, I'd like to orient you to the Microsoft Teams platform. The control icons will be on the upper right section of your screen for most of our users today. If you haven't yet, please click on the mic icon to mute yourself, and you'll need to click the same mic icon to unmute yourself later when we're ready for conversation. We encourage you to utilize the chat throughout this session for any questions that you may have during the presentation. Our team will be monitoring the chat and respond accordingly. We will hold a time at the end for discussion as well. For those of you who do not know me, I'm Vicki Troffler, and with me today is Beverly Flife, Dr. Kim Howard, our director, Lila Toll-Monsager, and our newest team member, Rashonda Frazier. We would like to officially welcome Rashonda to our office hours, and she will be supporting our districts with an emphasis on SLOs and teacher leadership goals. As you know, as you're responding to the questions, the purpose of office hours is to hold time to ensure that we're sharing timely reminders with our districts, but even more importantly, to create a space where you can share feedback, questions, ideas, and best practices with your peers. If you're new, there's no question that's too small. And if you're an effectiveness veteran, don't be shy about letting us know how we can help you. So before we get started, let's consider our opening questions. The first question is, what steps are you taking to retain your highly effective educators? And our second question is, what steps are you taking to support your struggling teachers? So I'll give you a moment there. And as folks are typing in, Kim, if you want to look to see if there are any responses that you'd like to highlight for the group.
I think based on what we've seen so far, we just want to really highlight the need for supporting our teachers, our veterans and our new teachers, just really making sure that they have what they need. And maybe really even kind of forming a circle around them where they have the support of each other. So creating those opportunities for them to kind of create a network of support amongst their peers, but really listening to what their needs are and being able to provide that support in those areas.
That's great.
Anybody else got
Yeah,
anything to share? Drop it in the chat for us or hop on the mic like Vicky said.
very good. I think that that support is important for all of our educators. Sometimes that support is differentiated based on the teacher needs, but I think the common thread is support. Everyone needs to feel that, especially now. So thank you. And as you're continuing to do that, we'll go ahead to our slide that has the agenda. Again, welcome and thank you for joining us. Our primary focus for today's office hours is human capital. So we're going to begin our time together today by really diving into a scenario that's going to help us share ideas and strategies in regards to human capital issues that we're all really facing in our districts today. And next, we will have a few reminders about our special areas evaluations. We'll share information on SE Lead corrections and mentor features. We'll provide reminders about the ADEPT process during this time of year, and then provide you with some updated information regarding our professional learning library. And we'll wrap up today, of course, with your questions on this content or any other items of concern related to ADEPT. And at this time, I'll turn it over to Kim.
All right. Thank you, Vicky. So for our focus this month, like Dr. Troffler mentioned, we really want to put a spotlight on human capital in your districts and really think about how you guys are making things work. So we have a scenario that we've presented for you. We want you to think about this situation. It's something that you might actually be dealing with. You might see occurring in your districts at this time of year. I'll read this scenario for you, not because I don't think you can read, but just because it's easier for us all to hear it at the same time. All right, so we have first semester evaluation results starting to roll in. SC Lee reports show that several teachers across the district are struggling with classroom instruction. Many of them are first year teachers. You have a meeting with principals next week and you really want to discuss this with them. You want to make sure these teachers are getting the support they need to be effective for students, but you also want to see to it that teachers who are not effective do not remain in classrooms. At the same time, you of course realize that you are not in a position to lose teachers. So how do you address this with principals so that they effectively address this with their teachers? Something we want to talk about in breakout rooms. We're going to send you guys into a breakout room with a group of your colleagues so that you can have some conversation about how you might address this. What is going to be important for you to communicate with principals? What are those steps that you want them to start taking immediately to really effectively manage this level of human capital? Before we send you into your breakout rooms, feel free to go ahead and take a picture of this slide if you want, so that at least someone in your room can have it as you enter the room, since of course this slide won't be there when you get there. But we're going to give you about 5 minutes to have some conversation about this in your groups. And then we want you to come back with us and kind of share some of those key points with us as a whole group. So we're doing things a little bit differently today. Anybody have any questions about expectations as we begin to send you guys out? I will take that as a no. So I know we have a lot of veterans in the room. So for our newcomers, y'all make sure that they aren't too shy to speak up. Let's really get this conversation going when we get into these breakout rooms and really think about what we want to communicate to principals. So we're going to go ahead and open up those rooms. Those of you still in the room with us, do you see an option to join a breakout room? Angela, Kim, Marlo.
No, I don't. This
I'm
is
dragging
Marla.
them into rooms, Kim. I don't know why it didn't assign them, but I'm
Got it.
getting them there.
Thank you. Sounds delicious. If you're just joining us, everybody else is in a breakout room and they're discussing the scenario that you see here on the screen. We're going to bring them back in just a couple minutes, so you can go ahead and read that and just kind of be prepared to join in on the discussion or at least listen to some key strategies. All right, I think we can go ahead and close breakout rooms in about a minute. Oh.
You said you want to give them another minute, Kim?
I think it takes a minute to close, so you can go ahead and
It
close them.
does. Okay.
Welcome, welcome to those of you just jumping on. We've got some people heading back in from breakout rooms, so they'll be with us in just a second.
Right next to not started.
Oh, we ran out of time.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Dr. Howard, we need more time, Dr. Howard.
Yeah, you can talk all day. All right, so I think we have everybody back. I know some of you said you needed a few more minutes, or that might have just been Mr. Z because he likes to talk.
Oh.
But if you want to share some of those things that you wish you were able to share in the breakout room, we absolutely invite you to do that. But what were some of those nuggets? What do you say? What do you do?
But I
Hop
know
on
with
the
our
mic.
group,
Mhm.
I know we talked about pinpointing if it's instructional concerns using the SCTS 4.0 rubric, that we actually kind of pinpoint what area they might be talking about when it comes to instruction. It might be about the objective part, might be about questioning or grouping, so it won't overwhelm the teacher, but go to that teacher with exactly what we are working on in terms of instruction. We talked about that in our group. We also talked about making sure we provide support for that teacher, even if they're struggling. And one person even talked about the fact that the words that you use when you're trying to encourage teachers to do better. One instance they talked about where at the end of the conference, the person might have said, teaching is not for everyone. And see, that's not something you use at a conference when you're trying to maintain teachers. So we had stuff, we talked about the conversation you have with the teachers that are struggling, we talked about the support you give them, and talked about the data we use to identify the problem they're having.
Thank you so much. So really being intentional with the support you provide, not blanketed support, but really looking at what their needs are and being intentional there and being intentional in those conversations that you have with them with retention in mind. Absolutely.
Our group went even a little further. We said that in giving the support, we need to look at the resources that we have, whether we need to look at the professional library or whether we need to look at the district office staff, but making sure that our principals have the resources that they need.
Great.
Because we mentioned that the principal can't do it all alone.
Absolutely. So both our human resources that we can use as well as those kind of other physical resources that would support them, be it those technical things like the professional learning library, but absolutely. Okay, Jen says in the chat, I shared maybe completing a SWOT analysis with the principals. What are those teachers' strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats? And using that data to make really intentional decisions. Great. So I think one of the things that's really emerging here is that really being intentional is key, right? Looking at where these teachers are struggling and listening to them and asking them, where do you need that support so that we can be targeted in that. Using the resources that we have, human and non-human. Anybody else?
We also talked a bit about making sure that, administration and other resources, maybe district resources, induction, mentoring resources, that we are building those relationships and they feel supported, and that we're not just saying, hey, go use, the professional learning library, even though it's a great resource, but it's not personal. And so that we've got to combine those personal pieces with the relationship with the other support components as well.
Thank you. And I know that's just something that we are constantly preaching when we talk to our mentors who are going to be serving our new teachers, but that's something that we all have to do. Part of our culture should be building those relationships in schools, especially with those teachers who need our support the most. We know that we have a much higher probability of retaining teachers who feel supported, who have those people around them that are really kind of holding close to them. So those relationships are absolutely necessary. And if a teacher feels that relationship, they're building that relationship and they feel that trust from you, then absolutely they're going to be more willing to take in that kind of advice from you, that feedback from you. So. And thank you, Jen, for the suggestions that you're providing to your colleagues. All right, so you guys mentioned a couple things that are absolutely necessary. And we just have here on the screen for you a couple additional strategies. These strategies are some that are provided to us by USHCA. You guys know we've been working with them and they've been really intentional in providing us support with human capital for the past couple years here. But just a couple things that you can keep in mind in these kinds of situations. First one, develop and monitor a calendar of classroom visits, like you guys said, making sure that they see faces, the human part of it. HED used by administrators, mentors, and team leaders with all new teachers. And we do have a professional learning library that will make it easier for you to provide that. Another strategy, facilitating a session with principals and supervisors to plan how responsibilities and duties can be sequenced for new teachers, giving them time to learn the basics, not assuming that they know these things, not assuming that they should know these things, but really making sure that they have the time to learn them. Collaborating with principals to meet with those teachers who have been provided provided support previously, but have not been willing or able to improve. Confirm notice to them that further improvement is needed, and then maybe building up those improvement plans, co-creating them with those teachers, and identifying with them what supports may be necessary and what resources may be necessary. And then finally, co-developing with principal supervisors a consistent progress monitoring protocol that they can use with those teachers who are on plans, really making sure that we're looking at them intentionally, and monitoring those steps and making sure that improvement is occurring. So if you would like to see a more kind of comprehensive list, I'm going to post the link in the chat here for you
I just did.
where, okay, Beverly's just posted a link, and there's a more complete list of strategies that might be used in a similar situation. And with that, I will turn it over to Beverly to walk us through some reminders for special areas.
Thank you, Kim. The student growth goal takes the place of the former GBE for school counselors on a goals-based evaluation. We want to strongly remind you of this. We're still getting some calls about this. So the G in GBE is the student growth goal. The GG is the SGG. The conferences and the signatures are required in SC Lead in order for that educator's adept evaluation to be considered complete at the end of the year. Just wanted to remind you of that. I'm going to drop a link in the chat for the at a glance document that we've created for you, that shows you at a glance by contract level the requirements for those areas, those special areas by area. So also want to remind you that the school librarian and the SLP in their SC Lead profile, the SG on the bubble actually stands for the SMART goal, not for student growth. There is no student growth goal requirement for librarians and for our speech folks. Again, the requirements at a glance document, I think, is a real quick and easy way for you to see things. I created it for myself so that I could answer your questions when you called in a timely manner. And so I thought it might be a good idea to share it with you also. It is published on the website, and there's the link. Also, just a couple FAQs that I've been getting. I just finished Around the World in 7 days for the counselors and the school librarians regionals, and these are some of the questions that I kept getting while I was there. I'm the sole librarian in a large high school, and this is my continuing formative research year. My principal says I must teach a whole class lesson for her to be able to do my observation. I feel as if this would not be a good use of my already stretched thin time, nor will it encompass my true role or responsibilities as the librarian. Help. So the guidelines use the term observation session. They don't use the term lesson. We do use lesson plan because some folks do a lesson plan. Some folks do a lesson plan for IGP conferences or for parent night in the library. So as long as you're planning for it and you're intentionally planning and it is an observable activity, it can be a lesson, but it can also be a session. So we encourage that the evaluator observe and gather information about the special areas educators' typical performance. We use that word a lot in the guidelines. It should be what they do typically, not a show that they put on just for their observation. So teaching a lesson to a class is not required for observation for school librarians or school counselors. Another FAQ, a principal cannot assign herself to her school librarian's evaluation team. I'm sure she completed the Moodle training. Why is SC Lead not allowing her to evaluate? Well, the first thing I want you to do when that happens is to check the principal's credentials tab in SC Lead and make sure that it shows that the special areas evaluator for school librarians is listed. If it's not, then check to make sure that her name was submitted, his or her name was submitted to Dr. Kimberly Howard using the credential upload spreadsheet that we emailed all of you after your SAM training. I've emailed it to you again recently, just to make sure, because it was one of the things that we did not publish on the website. We didn't want everybody to have access to that. So only the SAM in your district should have the spreadsheet. And the instructions are in the first tab at the bottom of the spreadsheet. So those will help you understand exactly the technicalities to do to get it to Kim. We tried to streamline the process as much as possible, but if Kim doesn't get the names, they don't get entered in SC Lead. those evaluator credentials, the flow chart is that the evaluators should complete the assigned training in Moodle and submit their certificate to the SAM. The SAM then collects evaluator credentials, those certificates, and fills out that spreadsheet and sends it to Dr. Howard. And then when assigning the evaluation teams, make certain that the evaluator is staffed at the same school as the educator. If evaluator credential is missing, then contact the SAM. So if you're not staffed at that school, your evaluator credential is not going to show up at that school. You're not going to show up in that drop-down menu. So if you have any questions about special areas or anything else I can help you with, please don't hesitate to reach out. I think I have finally landed the hot air balloon that I've been sailing around in for the last 2 weeks, and I should be home for a while now. So if you need me, just let me know. Thank you so much. Y'all have a great day. Handing it over to, who am I handing it to? Kim.
Could I ask a quick question real quick, Dr. Howard?
Sure.
And this is for Beverly. We're able to skip spring observations with teachers that are recertifying if they had good results in the fall.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we're supposed to be able to do the same thing for librarians, but it does not give us the button to where we can skip spring observations on or in SC Lead. Is that something that will be added, or how do we handle that?
Let me do some research and I will get back to you.
Okay, thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
That's also true for the speech language. I was also looking for that as well and didn't see that, but thanks.
My memory, and we're going to research it for y'all, is that it will let you complete the observation, or it'll let you complete the evaluation without that if the librarian or the counselor are meeting those criteria. It just doesn't have the same button as the teacher one does. So I think they've corrected the issue, but it doesn't have the button you're used to seeing. But we'll double check for you and let you know.
I'm pretty sure it's because you could still be collecting evidence from the student growth goal or the school library plan or the school counselor plan. It's not that one and done with the observations like it is with teachers. I think that's why we don't have a button. But again, I'm going to check out and make sure.
Yeah, I was going to throw out there that I noticed that last year on ours. I don't think it generates till after you complete the preliminary cycle evaluation conference. I may be wrong on that, but it may not generate until then.
Thank you, Daniel, because I know that you have been around the world and back with SC Lead, so.
So I'll come to the defense for SC Lead. Just someone tell them that I stuck up for them.
I'll make sure to do that. All right. So just a couple things that I've been getting some questions or concerns about lately that I wanted to share with everybody as a large group. First being some of those corrections that you do in SC Lead when you submit those corrections to us. Note that if required signatures are missing for an evaluation, the overall status is going to be incomplete. So that could be for an educator, if an educator is missing a signature anywhere, or if an evaluator is missing a signature anywhere. That result will not be met or not met. That result will be incomplete, even if all the evaluation data is there. So that means that you are going to have to submit a correction in order to get that evaluation closed out with met or not met. We are not able to manually select met or not met when you submit those corrections to us. If it's a formative or a summative evaluation, you have to select the appropriate rubric at the bottom of the form, and you have to complete the entire rubric. That's the only way we can get a met or not met result. The system has to calculate it. If it's a GBE, that SLO data has to be completed. Remember that you have to complete all sections of the request, inclusive of the contract level, evaluation level, SLO, recommendations, everything there needs to be completed. And then finally, just making sure that the recommendations that you select align with the state board regulations. For example, the educator must have a successful met, a met annual summative evaluation before they can be recommended for an annual GBE or for a continuing contract. So just some things that are consistently coming up with those corrections that you need to keep in mind. And then another set of reminders for you surround those features for mentors in SC Lead. The first is that mentor credits import option that you see highlighted here on the screen. This feature is for adding mentor professional learning hours in bulk rather than adding the individual PD credits for mentors, which you'll see next to their mentor credential. There's the option to add PD. You can use this spreadsheet to track and manage the 18 renewal credit hours that they must receive during each of those 5-year cycles. This feature is not for adding the mentor credential after a mentor training. There are 2 ways to add mentor credentials in SC Lead. The trainers can use that training feature, and that's highlighted at the bottom that you'll see on that tab. If you're a trainer, you can use that feature. You can add the training, you can add the participants, and then you can award credentials. And then the second option, of course, is if you're a trainer, you can send that spreadsheet to me and I can upload those credentials. Remember that all training spreadsheets should also be sent to Jan Patterson at Sarah. If you run into a technical issue trying to use these features, please reach out to the help desk because they would be the best support for figuring out what's wrong technically. Okay. So I am now going to turn it over to our freshest face here in the office, which is Rashonda, and she's going to talk to you about some calendar reminders.
Good afternoon, everyone. So here are a few gentle reminders at this point in the school year. First, be sure to confirm that every educator who is supposed to be evaluated shows up on the evaluation search page in SC Lead. The system assists with ensuring your list is accurate based on how they are coded in SC Educator, but be sure to give the list a second look to ensure those who are supposed to be evaluated are being evaluated. We are also encouraging each district to check the evaluation timeline in your ADEPT plan, as well as edit if you need to, and clearly communicate what the deadlines are with evaluators and principals in your district. Make sure you communicate the date that evaluators should have completed preliminary SLO conferences and when preliminary cycle classroom observations and consensus meetings should be completed. Make sure they know the deadlines. For many districts, the deadline to complete preliminary SLO conferences has passed, and the date for all observations to be completed is mid to late December. We are now in November, and this is a great time to monitor the completion status if you have not already begun this process. I know you're asking, what could monitoring look like at this point in the school district? If you look at the evaluation search page for your district and you do not see those observation status bubbles partially filled in for most teachers on the summative or formative evaluations, you should investigate the status of the observation completion at the school or district level. Make a part of your review a check to ensure that mentors are assigned to teams for Induction 1 and annual formative educators. Beyond the evaluation page, you can also pull the staff evaluation observations report. So don't forget about that resource. And now to our director, Lila Toll Monsager, where she will share about professional learning library resources.
So first off, I just want to say welcome to Rashonda. It's so great to have her on our team, and we are just so lucky to be getting to know her better and having someone to help support our districts and support SLOs. So welcome to Rashonda, the first of many virtual office hours for you. I just wanted to give a couple reminders about professional learning before we head into questions. So first of all, thanks to everyone who has been coming to training on the Professional Learning Library, the folks who have been sending questions about this, those of you who have been rolling it out to your principals. We really, really appreciate it. We're excited about the quality of the content, and I was nerdy about it. I looked at reports yesterday. We've already seen 900 people enroll in courses from August to now, and so that's pretty exciting to see. If you are still thinking about how to best support the rollout of the Professional Learning Library in your setting, these documents are the ones I've been sending out to people, so I wanted to share them with you directly. First link that Beverly is going to put in the chat is the Help at a Glance document. It's stored both inside of SC Lead and inside of PowerSchool Professional Learning whenever you click through to a course and you see your dashboard. It has links specifically to things like, hey, I forgot how to enter a support ticket and I'm the support person, or I have someone who's having trouble with their account. Where should I look to see if it's all in there correctly? So that's a great document. The second link that Beverly is putting into the chat is the FAQs that we've gotten from districts. So questions people have asked at training, questions people have been emailing to us. We try to update that about every month, and we'll keep adding to that as y'all have questions about the Professional Learning Library. The last link that's there in the chat, and this one is actually up on our website as well as inside SC Lead and inside of the Professional Learning Library itself, is just the slides that were used at our most recent, or one of our recent Professional Learning Library trainings. If you want to use those slides to train other people in your district or just to remind yourself how to do the clicks, it's a really nice guide and has some of that information there in detail. Over on the right-hand side of this slide, this QR code and this bit.ly link are actually from Educational Impact. So Melissa Hoot has been hired as the new implementation manager at Educational Impact, working directly with South Carolina. So she is willing to come and do training with your principals and roll out the PLL to them. She sat with us at Instructional Leaders Roundtable a couple weeks ago and offered, you know, if you are looking for a set of courses just for your new teachers, or you're really interested in trauma-informed instruction in your district, or you have a different district need that's coming up, she can help curate the courses for what you want to offer to teachers. So you have some of those choices, but you're also providing more of a focus for what they should be looking at. Educational Impact has been a great partner for us. So if you click on that link, you can sign up to communicate directly with them and with Melissa Hoot, who's their contact. So that's all that we have for the Professional Learning Library. And on the next slide, we're going to make an invitation to go to questions. And I'm actually going to start with one that came in this afternoon. So the question was, I'm still having access issues. There are certain educators in the district who are seeing access denied inside of SC Lead. What might be going on there? And so I know that we reviewed some access issues that were programming issues at September office hours that were resolved by September 7th when we had that meeting. So if you were having issues earlier in the year, that might have been what's going on, but there could be 3 other things going on if you're having educators that are having difficulty accessing SC Lead. But SC Lead programming wise should be working as designed right now, as far as we know. The first is if you have educators that are new to your district but have been staffed at a different district in the past, and maybe they signed up with their district email to SC Lead, when they go to that forgot password link, it's sending right back to that old email that's still stored in SC Lead. So the way that they change that is to update their email. Just email support@sclead.org. Let them know what their certificate number is, let them know what their email address is, and they'll be able to change that email and get back in to SC Lead. If they are one of your non-certified charter school educators, you can just let them know what school you are and your old email, and they'll be able to update that for you as well. The second reason that you might have some folks who are getting access denied in SC Lead might be because of their permissions. So for example, and I can see some folks on the call, some of you work in districts where assistant principals only should have access to evaluations if they're assigned to that team. So that's the default for SC Lead, is that assistant principals don't have access to everyone just because they're staffed as assistant principals. They only have access to evaluations where they're on there as an evaluator or an evaluation chair, unless some of you work in districts where you've actually staffed those APs in the role of school staff and you've checked the adept box for them. If that is the case, then they should be able to see all of the educators and evaluations at their school. If you would like to give that access to APs in your district, all you have to do is go into their staffing page for that school and click on their staffing details and click edit. And if you are the adept administrator for your district, that's a change that you can make directly on your own. The other set of issues that we've heard from folks around people not being able to get access in SC Lead or not being able to add to evaluation teams is if there's something going on with their credential, either their credential to be a special areas evaluator, which Beverly told you the fix for that. Make sure that they have done their training and then email it to Kim and get their credential uploaded. Or it could be an issue with them needing to do their certification for NIET. So if you can check out, and I'll put the link in the chat after I'm done, our September office hours, slides 12 through 16 really take you through step by step if someone's teacher evaluator certification and NIET isn't matching up, what those issues could be. One of the issues is if when they trained, they didn't put in their actual certificate number and they put in some other number when they were trained, that's not going to match in SC Lead. And so their credential is not going to come over. The solution to that is just emailing support@niet.org with the correct information for that educator. But there are some other potential scenarios there. I'll make sure to put that information in the chat for y'all. And we appreciate your help. If you have had any other access issues that don't fit into those buckets, please feel free to ask questions, put those in the chat. But I'm going to pass the mic to Vicki now, who will facilitate our next section.
Okay, thank you, Lila. That does conclude our content that we had for you today. I do want to remind you that we will not hold an office hours for December. So our next scheduled time together is January the 11th. Kim and Beverly, are there any questions from the chat before I open it up for everybody to come on the mic? Were there any questions from the chat that you'd like to share with the group?
Just to answer the question that Chad raised about the skip button for the special areas formatives, Daniel, thank you so much for finding that and showing us that it will populate once you complete the preliminary cycle conference. So once you complete the preliminary cycle conference, then the skip feature will populate for spring. And then I would also like to verbally thank Daniel for saving me a couple hours of research this afternoon and playing around in the testing dashboard, so that that will allow me more time to respond to emails and phone calls from you all. So thanks, Daniel. I appreciate your teamwork.
Wonderful. Thank you.
My
All
pleasure.
right.
I owe you guys a lot more. Thank you.
We don't keep tabs. Well, except for Chad Evans. I keep a tab for Chad, but everybody else is good.
All right, so we've got a question that says, what about our international teachers in SC Lead? I'm not certain what the question is asking. So I don't know if
Kim,
anybody
I
else
think
knows.
I know, but Miss Hampton, please log in please, why don't you chime in first? And that way I don't have to guess what I think the answer is. Go for it.
What I'm just asking is, of course, when we try to add them to certain schools, they're not there. So is there a certain time that they are available to be added?
Excellent question. So this is something that's a little different from the days before we were hooked up with SC Educator and the days after. And so we went through with the Office of Educator Services to try to make sure some business rules were in place, that we weren't loading educators without certificates into SC Lead, because we had seen an increase in evaluations trying to be reported for people that didn't have a certificate even at the end of the year. Like they were in an alt cert pathway and they had just never been closed or taken out of there. And that can really mess up someone's advancement if something is reported out of line. And so if your international teachers do not yet have a CID, because they do not yet have a social security number, they will not show up inside of SC Lead for you to add them until they have that social security number. And we can't we can't help you get that to happen faster, but we can tell you that it is perfectly legitimate to do the forms in a Google document or use the Word doc forms to start their SLO, to start their process. And then as that paperwork gets done, to then add that evaluation into SC Lead. Even though the dates will be different than what you had on paper for the signatures, you can just make a note of that in the observation.
So Lila, this is Anita. So
Mhm.
there are Word documents for each of the templates or
Yes,
no?
ma'am, there are.
Where do they reside?
They used to be on our website, and I think now, if you want to contact your regional effectiveness lead, they can get them to you. I don't know, Vicki, am I right that we don't have them posted on the website anymore after this summer?
I think that's true.
Yeah, so we can get you those copies for anyone that needs them. And they haven't changed since we rolled out the guidelines. They're also in the 2021 guidelines pasted there at the bottom of that document.
Okay. So Rashonda, that's my new person. So Rashonda, if you could help me with that, that would be great. Because what I did was I just went in, some of the issues were early on, and I just went in and kind of did screenshots of the pages. And of course, they're not writable templates, but I instructed my folks that what I was giving them shows them the content, and they were to document in their own Word document and be ready to copy and paste when the educators did get their certificates.
But I'll get those documents to you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? You can hop on the mic or you can type your question in the chat at this time.
Good afternoon. I have a question. This is Melissa with the Rock Hill Schools.
Yes.
We have some teachers that do not have a SID number, but they show up in SC Educator, and they are in SC Lead, and they are in SC Educator. Then we have some that show up in SC Educator, but they do not show up in SC Lead, and we're not able to add them. What's the best advice for those type teachers?
Okay, Kim.
I don't know that I have advice, and I don't know the logic behind that because we do have some folks that are showing up in SC Lead without a CID number. I don't know the logic. I would say that we do want to make sure that if you're attaching evaluation records to them, we want to make sure we're using something with a CID number, so that nothing changes when they do get their CID number. For those people, it would be best to just kind of house those records, house evaluation documents offline until everything comes through in SC Lead. And then we can always upload what we need to then. Anybody else have any feedback in regards to that? Any experience with that?
Yeah, we have a lot of that in Richland 1, and there is some predictability on it, very similar to what Lila already shared. And if I've understood the question correctly, you have some that are staffed in SE Lead, and they're there in SE Educator as well, and then some that are in SE Educator, but they're not staffed in SE Lead, and it's hard to determine why and which one. And a lot of it does come back to two main factors. One, if it's the international, like Lila said, that social security number it's completely dependent on that. So without it, that's a brick wall. But the second one is this old CPS upload into the SC Educator. If your site is staffed that individual as an employee, like in a certified role or even in any role, if they have staffed them, you usually can pull them in to SC Lead. You can usually staff them in SC Lead once they've been staffed in SC Educator. It's like an overnight thing. You have to wait like 24 hours. So if it's staffed today, tomorrow you'll be able to pull it in to create that record. It's very, very predictable that way. Though it is frustrating. I'm still waiting on like 5 to get in my own district. It's a while.
if anyone really wants to diagnose who's there and who's not, you may not. But if you do and you want to understand it, the business rules are in the chat for exactly who comes in through the feed. But as Daniel mentioned, sometimes it is a communications issue. If someone isn't staffed yet on the old PCS, now SC Educator end, that could be a roadblock.
I have a question. This is Charlene, Spartanburg 7. If we have educators who are not certified, should they be an SC lead, whether they're going to seeking an alternative certification, or they just simply are having trouble with the praxis? Should we enter them or no? Last year we did, and then at the end of the year had to close them out due to them not still having their certification.
Ms. Doctor, this one's complicated because it kind of depends on the educator. So if you have an educator you have a question about if they should be in there or not, please, that's why we have regional supports. Please feel free to send us the CID and we can talk through it. For example, if you are seeking a provisional credential for someone and because they haven't yet been able to pass the praxis, but you are putting them through that alternative pathway, you've applied with the State Department, it's going to take them 3 years to get to that professional credential through a different route than passing praxis. They need to have an evaluation inside of SC Lead and they should be on induction. If you've got someone who's starting winter pace, and they've been with you for 152 days, and they got there early enough to do their full evaluation, they need to be on induction so that they can keep progressing. And we want them to have that induction support. If you've got someone who you haven't convinced yet to enroll in an alternative route and you're trying to convince them to do that and you're still waiting to see if Carolina TIP or Carolina CAP or ABCTE or what's going to be the best option for them, that might be someone who you might want to put on in as an LOA to kind of track their observation, but they might not qualify to get that full induction support. So there's some situations where yes, especially if they are going to be in an alternative route, you need that documented. There are other situations where if you want to track them in an LOA, it's probably a good thing for you to be able to go observe them or do that SLO with them and check in on their performance, but it's not required.
Okay, and that's what we've been doing, entering them just to track. And then at the end of the year, if they still haven't been successful, then we just close it out. So that's good. Okay.
Yep, I think that's right. And if you know they're not gonna get on track and you want to do LOA instead of induction, that makes it just a little bit cleaner for your records and for your induction count. But I know there's some that you're holding on for.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
I see that there's a question for the group, and I don't know if any districts are hosting evaluator trainings between now and January, but that is a question that one of our colleagues in the room has. Anybody hosting evaluator training? If you are, please drop that in the chat. Chad had a question about our late hires. If they are not working 152 days, then of course they are going to be hired on a letter of agreement. So with that, you guys can decide whether you want to do something formative with them or if you want them to just focus on a goal for that year, but that would be a letter of agreement rather than a contract.
I have a quick PLL question, if I can ask. We were just testing it out. We had some issues to start with in trying to give administrators permissions to assign courses. And so one of our administrators like tested it out on one of our teachers, and we're finally able to assign it, but now he can't unassign it to that particular teacher. It was just kind of like, let's just make sure that they have rights now. How the option tab within SC Lead to remove it is not available either at my level. The teacher can't unassign it from herself either in that email that they usually get, and he can't unassign it either.
The teacher should be
Is it
able
gonna
to
matter?
withdraw from the course. If they go
Okay.
to the courses tab, they should be able to withdraw from that course, and of course it wouldn't be punitive.
Okay, is it possible that there's a setting, like if he chose it for something other than optional or suggested, that's why she cannot? Or as
I
long
don't
as,
think it's
no matter how it
available.
was assigned?
Yeah, I don't think it's available inside of SC Lead, Darlene. But I do think inside of the PowerSchool, when she goes to her dashboard inside PowerSchool, that's where the remove
She'll be
isn't it
able to.
remove, Vicky? Option
I think
is
it's withdraw.
withdraw.
Yeah. Okay, I
So
was
if
able
that's
to
still
practice
giving
it out
you
of
an
myself,
error,
but
Darlene, when she goes inside there, I'd just do a ticket. I'm not sure if you are your technical support for your district, but just
I
have your
am, yeah.
technical support do the ticket if that withdraw button isn't working.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Y'all had some great ones today. Of course, here is our contact information on the screen now. If you think of questions later, always reach out to us and let us know how we can be of assistance to you. We have about 2 minutes left of our scheduled time, but we will certainly stick around if you need to ask us any other questions. We'll be here. But again, we want you to enjoy the rest of your week. And as always, reach out to us as you need to. So thank you so much again for being with us today.